So I just finished Barbarian, and it's very, very hard to describe because even describing the plot a little bit will spoil a lot of the movie. You really don't want to be spoiled on any element. They did an excellent job. There, however, were a few big flaws that will take down the score, but as a horror film, as a thriller, and just as a film being put together, it was pretty good. It was really solid for the most part, and it has very good performers. The direction was strong. The script was very tight and very intelligent. Like when you do a horror film now, you want to have a lot of twists, but usually when the twists happen, you're like, oh, those twists were really stupid. That's not the case here. The twists were very intelligently done in this film. You have to give them a lot of congratulations because it could have gone really stupid. And it's a very sharp contrast to Halloween Ends because I think one of the major difficulty with Halloween Ends is it's trying to be two films at once, and you may like one film, but you don't really like the other film, or you don't like either film, so you're kind of stuck. This one is trying to do two, even three films at once, and it did a pretty good job of putting the three films and two films together. Of course, doing such an ambitious project and doing it with a small budget, you're going to see places where things don't quite make sense, or they needed to do a little bit more with the environment, maybe add a character, maybe do a little bit more with the world building. But for the budget they had, this is pretty amazing. So they did an excellent job. So what is occurring? Well, I want to keep it very simple. Essentially, what happens is a woman comes in for an interview and she wants to rent out basically just a rental place for a short amount of time to prepare for the interview. And then things start to spiral out of control, but not in the ways you think, because we got Pennywise and he's at the very beginning. So you think, oh, I know what they're going to do. They're going to do this. And with a name like Barbarian, you're like, okay, I get it. And then when we discover something weird is going on in the basement, you're like, okay, I think I know what's going to happen with Pennywise. But nope, this thing has genuine surprises. And when they give you the full story, you're like, it's pretty shocking. Now, it's nothing completely new. This feels a lot like People Under the Stairs. So that's a Wes Craven film. So you can see where they took inspiration from. There's a lot of Halloween in this. There's a lot of Halloween. Like one guy straight up looks like Michael Myers, even with the whole coveralls. They're taking a lot of inspiration from Halloween, a lot of Hitchcock. There's a lot of elements they're putting together, but it's not done stupidly. It's done very intelligently. They don't go overboard. And Justin Long comes in out of nowhere, and there's a lot of funny Jeepers Creepers vibes to the whole thing. I swear some shots are clearly nodding to Jeepers Creepers, but again, it's not stupid. The fan service is pretty excellent. So, what is the problem? Well, I would give this a 10 out of 10, but there were a few places where characters make some pretty goofy decisions, and you realize, okay, I get it. It's more a mythological film. It's kind of like a fairy tale, really. I can't give it as high a score as I want to, but the major characters, for the most part, do make sense, and they do stay with you. When you think about these characters, whether AJ or Keith, you kind of understand where they're going and why they did what they did. Of course, some things were a little bit on the nose when you notice the last name. You're like, oh, okay. And some of the symbolism with snakes, I thought that was a little too explicit. But overall, Barbarian is very strong. Again, I cannot say too much. I will just say that it does depend a lot on the lead actors and whether you believe them, because the situation is a little silly at the end of the day. And when they reveal the monster or the villain, you're kind of like, oh, that's the thing. That's the thing behind everything. It's like, oh, that was a little disappointing. I wish they kept it a little bit more mysterious, but that's me. I think it worked out for most people. But I would say in certain places, yeah, the plot gets a little weak. But that's because most of the plot for most of the film is very, very strong. So I want to give them a lot of kudos for, again, trying to keep the plot very focused and cohesive. So don't deny yourself. Barbarian is a very strong film. I'm going to give it an 8.5. I didn't find it particularly scary, but that's me. I know a lot of horror films, but you will probably be very shocked in many places and be like, oh, that's intriguing, because it feels like characters will go one way, but then they do a reversal, but the reversal makes a whole lot of sense.